We are at Freedom Park. Freedom Park is a heritage site. It is at Salvakop, next to Kgoshi prison. This place used to be a place for military intelligence. South Africa have about 7 constitutionally recognized faith-based communities: African traditional religion, Christianity, Buddhism, Baha'i, Islam, Rastafari. So Thau Thau simply means divine wisdom. And then Haramanuba is the house of light of Nubia. There is this problem of Egyptologists, black Egyptologists, who are basically a Christian mindset function within the Egyptian space or ancient Kemetic space, who confuse similarities with sameness. For one to understand that, you must read it within the Hebrew context.
Yes.
And this is why things must be dealt with within context. Spirituality within context.
Yes.
Literature within context. They went on now to copy what the white man is saying and come up here to say, oh, Christianity was stolen from Africa or was copied from Africa. But it's not a historical fact. Karaism is based on that because it's Ka, which is the spirit, Ra, which is the sun or the light. But that is simplification, is actually about the spirit of the sun, the name of the sun, you know, which also is called by different name. Amen, Aten, Atum. These are different names of the sun that the sun god. These are some fancy thing that the new age groups of spiritualists will be making, that come to me, I'm the grandmaster, I'm a teacher, I possess the cosmic consciousness. Once you hear somebody saying that, you must know that he's hallucinating, he's deluded now. No man possesses cosmic consciousness. If you want to deal with spirituality, you must deal with reality. So when you speak of African spirituality, you speak of African reality. That's what African spirituality basically is about. So it's an experience that we gain every day. Nobody possesses the total experience of life without living life in its totality. It is very important for us as Africans to study our history, do independent research. We have a program in Bantu Soul Society, our institute, where we call Researching the Researchers, or the antithesis of thesis.
As we open the gallery of leaders, we give thanks to all the freedom fighters. Robert Sobukwe, Nelson Mandel.
We out here at the Freedom Park with Thau Thau Haramanuba. We just concluded a function. I think it's good to do justice to this event today. So I know you don't need introduction, but just a brief one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tobela. My name is Thau Thau Haramanuba. I'm a director of Bantu Soul Society. I'm the grandmaster. I'm a teacher in the African spirituality space. Originally from Limpopo, Polokwane, Seshego.
So let's just start about the place that we are standing.
Yes.
We will unpack some of the knowledge that you have about or what you've alluded to when you do your introduction.
Yes.
So behind us here, we've got, personally, like let me speak from where I'm standing.
Yeah.
There's water and there's a flame inside the water. I'll just take a closer shot of the flame and then insert it here.
Yeah.
Just tell us about where we are, what's happening here.
We are at Freedom Park. Freedom Park is a heritage site. It is at Salvakop, next to Kgoshi prison. This place used to be a place for military intelligence during apartheid. It's called Salvakop. Next to it, there is the Apartheid Museum, or the Voortrekker Museum.
Monument, yeah.
Monument.
I was there 2 weeks ago.
Yes, at the Voortrekker Monument. And then there is the Freedom Park. So the Freedom Park is conceived out of a speech Mandela gave in 1997, that we will have a place of memory, a freedom park, where the African voices will be liberated. So one of the things it represents is the liberation of African voices. So Freedom Park It's a heritage site. It's a monument. It's got a shrine. That site we call it Isivivana. That is our national ancestral shrine. It is made up of 10 boulders. It's a circular thing with 10 boulders. Each boulder, each stone was picked up from one province. From all the 9 provinces, each province have its own stone where they picked up this big stone. And then the 10th one represents the international community that took part in our struggle for liberation. So here where we are is called the sanctuary, with an amphitheater here. And then these poles represent the sea of reeds, bed of reeds. So when you go down there is a museum. The museum contains the oldest specimen of life in Southern Africa, which is 3.6 billion years old, called the Barberton Rock. It was found in a town called Barberton in Mpumalanga. There by the area of Intaba Azikonjwa. Today it is referred to as Makonjwa.
Makonjwa. I ran a race there which is called Makonjwa.
Makonjwa, but it is Intaba Azikonjwa.
Yeah.
It's those mountains you were not supposed to point them with a finger. That is the area of Inzalo Yelang. So there they found an older specimen of life in Southern Africa, which is positioned in South Africa within the context of the Southern Cradle. So it's kept in that museum. So from there they begin telling the story of South Africa. So Freedom Park has categorized the history of South Africa into 7 epochs and 8 conflicts. Now those 8 conflicts, they are they are genocide, pre-colonial wars, colonial wars, wars of resistance, South African War, which is what was previously called Anglo-Boer War, and then First World War, Second World War, because our South Africans participated in those wars. My grandfather participated in the Second World War in Ethiopia. So, and then the 7th one being the wars for liberation, and the 8th one, those are 8 conflicts. And the 7 epochs. The 7 epochs is the epoch of the earth that is starting from 3.8 billion, and then it starts with the life emerging out of the reeds, the stories of Umvelingangi. So there is a beautiful animation of this story in the museum down there by the restaurant when you are coming through. So on the other side is Isivivana, the other side is Mushate, and then in between Mushate and Sanctuary is a gallery of leaders. Then you have Skumbuto, a place of remembrance. Then you have Sintaha, which is the nest where the children play when you came with the children with some water and all of that. So it has also 4 sacred sites within it, Sivivana being one of them.
That is where you performed something this morning?
Yes, where we were performing the interfaith rituals.
Yes.
So interfaith rituals, they are, South Africa have about 7 constitutionally recognized faith-based communities. African traditional religion, or what we famously refer to as African spirituality, and then African indigenous Christianity, Buddhism, Baha'i, Islam, Rastafari, among others. They call the 7 constitutionally recognized faith-based communities. So that is where we meet in that place and pray for the peace of South Africa on different events, whether it's moral regeneration movement, social cohesion, 16 days of activism against women and children, or whenever there is some important event happening here, like today with the launching of the Gallery of Leaders. So we always begin official works of Freedom Park with that morning session, and we always do it before the rising of the sun, as guided by African spirituality directives led by Abu Gogo.
And I saw some of the Khoisan were represented as well this morning.
Yes.
Yeah,
the Khoisan were fully represented. Actually, I must say that this was actually the first time they were represented extensively as they were in performing their rituals and everything. So yeah, they were also present there, and then they did perform their rituals, and just to connect everything with everything that we're doing.
And then I asked about the water here. Okay, the poles here, you said they represent the reeds.
The reeds.
And then there's water behind us here.
The water.
And there's a flame that is burning within the boundaries of the water, or in the middle of the water.
This is all something that comes out of African cosmology, that life began from the waters, and from the waters emerged the reeds.
Okay.
And then within the waters, the eternal flame came out, which also the sun and everything. So the fire, they represent the eternal flame, which is the sun, which is the first spark of life that came out of the water. So it's represented by that eternal flame there. It's also used on the there's other application of it where it is used also as the flame of liberty or of freedom, as the place is Freedom Park, and it is having walls of names. You start from that site. If you go there, those are walls of names based on the 8 conflicts. So they are documented, those who died during the pre-colonial war, colonial wars, wars of resistance, and so forth. So it's a place of remembrance, both our stories of creation and also our stories of liberation.
So when South Africans or anyone from any corner of the world come here, what should they actually, how much time do you need to get this story narrated?
You will need the whole day. Because you go through the museum, you read everything, you listen to the animations, you listen to recordings, video recordings. It will take you about 3 hours to just tour the museum alone. 3 to 4 hours reading, listening, observing. It is covering the 8 conflicts, it is covering the 7 epochs of the earth. It is called Kapo, which is a coin name. Kapo means dream.
Okay.
So the theme of it is, a dream is not a dream until it is embraced by the whole community. So it's Kapo. That is the meaning of it. And then from there, for you then to move around this place, to tour it, it's got a lot of places, like I said, Sentlaga, Oskumbuto, the place of remembrance, Mushate, Sanctuary, Gallery of Leaders, Mushate, and then you go to Kapo. So all of these places, it will take you pretty much the whole day.
What do you, just briefly, what do you find at Sentlaga and at Mushate? Let's just talk about those two for now.
Sentlaga is a place where when you came with children, is a nest.
It's a nest, yeah.
It's a safe space for children.
Okay.
And then Mushate is where, when the VIPs come in, like the minister, before he come in here, is where the holding room is.
Okay.
They will have the briefing there. They will also have, like they were having lunch there.
Yeah.
The VVVIP. They were having lunch that side. That is Mushate.
And then today, there was a special ceremony that was done here in remembrance of certain leaders of the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Gallery of Leaders was about that. It is a place where these leaders are displayed. There are about 48 of them for now. But there is a recognition that the list is longer than 48. There are much more people who contributed, and there are much more names that are still yet to be documented who contributed to our struggle. So those leaders are not limited to those who are in South Africa. As you have seen, there is Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso, there is Robert Mugabe from Zimbabwe, there's also international leaders like Fidel Castro from Cuba, W.E.B. Du Bois, who was also from the Western Hemisphere, who was very much involved in Pan-Africanist work. So it's a collection of different leaders who contributed to our struggle. That our struggle was the longest human rights campaign.
Yeah. Because I see the heavens are about to open.
Yeah, and then the rain beds.
Yeah, you can see the rain beds are also circling around.
Yeah.
But let's touch on something very important that when you did your introduction, your name being
Thau Thau.
Thau Thau
Yes.
Haramanuba.
Yes.
Let's just talk about the name for starters. What can you just give us background to the name and what it means?
Thau Thau is a name of an African sage, a messenger of the gods, a man was referred to as the personification of the mind of God, among others. So Thau Thau simply means divine wisdom, and then Haramanuba is the House of Light of Nubia, or Nuba. That is where he was coming from. He was coming from Nuba. He was a Nubian who went on to become one of the great sages of Africa and god of Egypt. Among the gods of Egypt, Egypt had many gods. There was god of writing. So to the Hebrews, he's known as Enoch. And to the Arabs, he's known as Idris. And to the Romans, he's known as Mercurius. To the Greeks, he's known as Hermes, or Thoth Hermes, or Thoth Hermes Trismegistus, thrice the greatest. And then to the Kemites, he's known as Tehuti. And to the Nubians, or the Nuba, is known as Thau Thau.
And the name, okay, to the Nubians, how did they come about the name Thau Thau? Did they, in Africa, when we give names, sometimes we look at a certain pattern, or we look at a certain, and then we personify that thing to the name.
Well, like I said, that this character was a god, like Osiris.
So it's a god among other gods.
Yeah. He features in the 42 gods.
Okay.
Of Kemet, in the Kemetic pantheon of gods. Is an ibis-headed god. You have Anubis, who is a jackal-headed god. You have Horus, who is a hawk-headed god. You have Sekhmet, who is a lion-headed goddess. So he was an ibis-headed god. He's one of the gods of Kemet, who actually comes from Nubia and went into Kemet during the pre-dynastic period. Historians who did some works around Kemet and pre-dynastic Kemet or pre-dynastic Egypt, they speak of 10,490 BC, which makes it 12,000 years ago.
Yeah. So he's a god amongst 42.
Yes,
so
he's one of the 42 gods.
Yeah.
But Kemet does not have only 42 gods.
Okay.
Kemet have about 1,500 gods.
So is he supreme to other gods, or is he equal but having his function?
Well, in Kemet, basically, it is about gods. Is like more in with African spirituality broadly. Is these gods, like when you speak of Nguni cosmology, you speak of Menzi, then you have Nomkhubulwane, you have Mvelinqangi and so forth. It's not about who is supreme or bigger than who, it's about they having different roles. So this one is a god of writing, is the one who introduced writing, hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Invented the hieroglyphics. He's a god of wisdom. He is reputed to be the writer of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or one of the texts, the pyramid texts. And also there were a couple of books that are attributed to him, about 42 books to be precise, among some of the books that one had to learn when you study in Kemet, in that 42 years process of study that the ancient Kemites dealt with. So his speciality was writing. That is why even the hieroglyphic that depict him, it depicts a man with an ibis head holding a pen and a pyramid, a papyri, a scroll. But also he features in the judgment wall, the journey of the soul, where your heart is going to be weighed against the feather.
The feather, yeah.
So he's the one who's recording, he's the enumerator. He's the one who's recording your deeds. And then you have to pass through him, Osiris, Amet, which is a monster that is made up of different ferocious animals of Kemet, the one that devour your heart or that eat your soul if you are found not worthy through the judgment scales of Kemet. So it's one of the gods that you find there in Amenta.
And then I know there's something called the 42 laws of Ma'at.
Yes.
Does it have anything to do with these 42 gods?
Yes.
Okay.
And the 42 gods have something to do with the 42 provinces. And the 42 provinces have something to do with 42 ethnic groups. There were 42 ethnic groups in Kemet. Most of us, our totems that we are having, like Kiminano, Porcupine, Bukwena, most of our totems that the Bantu have, they come from Kemet, or they are found in Kemet. So each province of those 42 gods had its own spirit animal, what they call totem or spirit animal. And then each one of them had a patron god of that particular province.
Yeah.
So the 42 gods is about each of the it's actually some they call it the negative confession, but it's not even a confession, it's not even negative, it's a positive affirmation that I will not do bad and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
So each one is attributed to one of the 42 gods in order to give us 42 principles of Ma'at.
Is there anywhere whereby maybe the Quran or the Bible has stolen anything from Africanism or from the world of Kemet?
Well, I hear most Africans who are still having Christian, Judaism, Islamic hangover, they'll always say, oh, the 10 Commandments was stolen from the 42 gods. But the 10 Commandments come from the laws of Hammurabi, from the Sumerian text, not from Kemetic laws of the 42 principles of Ma'at, because they differ, the nature of it. There it says, I will not steal, I will not kill. And then the other one is say, thou shalt not.
Yes.
It's a commandment in the negative. The other one is a confession in the positive, or affirmation in the positive. So there's no way, there is no traces that shows that it come from. So there is this problem of Egyptologists, black Egyptologists, who are basically a Christian mindset function within the Egyptian space or ancient Kemetic space, who confuse similarities with sameness. That they will find the similarities, like in the proverb of Solomon, one of the proverbs of Solomon, they find similarities with the prayer of Aten in Kemet, or the laws of Amenemope and the hymn of Amenemope. Then they say, oh, the book of Solomon, they extracted this particular proverb from this. So they are making inferences that does not show you the full scale template. You're just picking up one thing and then compare it with one psalm, but you are not able to pick up those 150 psalms and show them to us where they all come from. So therefore is this problem of confusing similarities with sameness.
You know, when you talk about the Psalms, there's a longest Psalm in the Bible, and that Psalm, if you look at it in Hebrew text, it uses all the 22 Hebrew alphabets,
yes,
starting with an Aleph up until the Tav. And each Aleph is got 8 lines, Bet is got 8 lines, and then so for Dalet, the Yod, all of them up until you get to the last one, which is the Tav. And if you look at what we use, like with our alphabets, we've got A to Z, they've got Aleph up to Tav. And they claim that Aleph, alphabet, comes from A and B, which is Aleph, Bet. Yes.
Yes, you see, that is a confusion, because for one to understand that, you must read it within the Hebrew context.
Yes.
And this is why things must be dealt with within context. Spirituality within context.
Yes.
Literature within context. Knowledge is not conceptually neutral.
Yes.
You know. So, but because of this is a very bad tendency that it was started by certain group of Europeans during the Age of Enlightenment, who were despondent with the domination of the church in Europe. That is during the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages simply mean Europe was in darkness when the church was dominating Europe.
Yes.
So that was the Dark Ages. So when they started to rebel because the Dark Ages was suppressing free thinking, there was a group called the Free Thinkers, the likes of Casey Graves, who went on to write a book called The 16 Crucified Saviors, or Christianity Before Christ. Godfrey Higgins, who wrote the books like Anacalypsis, the origin or the unveiling of the Saitic Isis, or the origin of languages, religion, and culture. And then the likes of Gerald Massey, who wrote the book of the beginning, Egypt, Light of the World. So these are the people who started first to do this comparison that Christ was copied from Osiris. This was copied, even the ideas of Mshanyana Sinkatan. And now the black Egyptologists, the likes of Dr. Biosef Ben Yochanan, Asa Hilliard, and their subsequent students who came after them, Ashra Kwezi, they went on now to copy what the white man is saying and come up here to say, oh, Christianity was stolen from Africa or was copied from Africa. But it's not a historical fact. There is no historical fact to us that it's just comparative religious studies that they are making and comparative mythologies.
Let me just take you back to the Haramanuba. So you talk about Nubia.
Yes.
So Nuba. So who are the Nubas of today's age?
It's us. The groups like Bakalanga, the Shonas, the Changamires, because you will trace even some of these ones who came all the way to even to relate with the Rain Queen, the Mujaji,
yes.
the Lobedus.
Yeah.
They trace themselves all the way back to Nuba.
Yeah.
With the Changamires, with Tovera. You know which year we say Tobela.
Tobela, yes.
You understand? So with the Changamire them, you know, Mutapas.
Yes.
You understand? So this us. Remember what our people don't understand also. We had a big argument last night. We're having TikTok live and some 3 Christians came to take their chances and insulted us as usual. So one of the things they keep on mentioning, emphasizing that Egypt is in Africa. So when Jesus ran away and went to Egypt, he was going to blend among black people and said no. Egypt stopped being black in 1675 BC when the Hyksos invaded Egypt, and then they were then replaced by the Persians 525 BC under Cambyses of Persia, and then they went on with their series of rulers, Cyrus, Darius of Persia, and then until they were defeated by Alexander the Great in 332 BC, and then they were also replaced by the Romans. So during all that time with the conquest of North Africa, it sparked a 2,000 years migration, which historians refer to as the Great Bantu Migration.
Yes.
They started to move to the south, go following the Nile, as they did follow the Nile to go up from Central Africa. They started to follow again the Nile going back into the south until they reach to South Africa. That is why you'll get Bafokeng, Barolong, even the Zulus will tell you about their stay in Kemet. And they've written books like there is a book by Mfunelwa Bengu. He wrote a book called Amazulu, the ancient Egyptian origin of Amazulu, the spirit beyond the heavens. And he's giving all this comparison, including the story of Thau Thau. He mentioned that, you know, you can say, but it's people who had a bit of a glimpse of Karaism, among other things. So there was this movement that every time North Africa was occupied by these war tribes, that they had to now start to move south. Until today, North Africa is, the whole of it is occupied by Arabs. You see, so those people who were staying there, they had to move now deeper into the interior, running away from this persecution. I mean, even in Sudan, it just happened until recently, the Janjaweed and all of that, where the Arabs are busy trying to exterminate the indigenous or the Nuba people. And those Darfur situation is still a continuation of the same conflict that has been going on for the past 2,500 years.
You just alluded to something of interest that is called the Karaism. So is Karaism worship of the sun?
Karaism is based on that because it's Ka, which is the spirit, Ra, which is the sun or the light. But that is simplification, is actually about the spirit of the sun. Because the Ka is the spirit,
yes.
Ra is the sun. So it's about the visible sun and the invisible sun. And then the spirit behind the sun, the prime motivator, the prime mover of the sun. That the ancient Kemites were referring to, the invisible sun, the spiritual sun. But then literalist interpretation, it tried to place Kara into a literal sun worship.
Does Karaism form any part of the 42 gods?
Kara, no, it doesn't form any part of the 42 gods because it's about the Ka. You know, these are now the component of the soul, the Ka, the Ba, you know, and then it's also about Ra, which is about the name of the sun, you know, which also is called by different name. Amen, Aten, Atum. These are different names of the sun. That the sun god was given, you know, or the sun in different dimension. Like the sun in the morning is Atum, creation at dawn.
Okay.
The sun midday is Aten. This is what Akhenaten took to create his, which most Egyptologists, they said that he was the first monotheist. And then the sun at dawn is Amen. So these are the three dimensions of the sun positioned in this the movement of the sun during the day. Because African cosmology is astronomical. African spirituality is astronomical. The African spiritual system is based on building the heavens on earth. You'll find some pyramids aligned with certain constellation, like the Orion belt.
Yes.
Because our cosmology was about reflecting the heavens on earth.
Oh, is that with the saying, as above, so below?
It's precisely from there.
Okay.
As above, so below. So they said the earth is the visible part of the invisible heavens or the sky.
Yes.
So they always have these dualities, just like the Ankh is the dualities, with the spiritual and the physical. You know, the unity of the opposite. You know, so they always have this idea. Even the Ka, the Ka is our spirit, everybody's spirit that is in the heavens. So represented by a man with two hands raised up, the dancing Ka. You know, so now there's always been these dualities, the visible and the invisible. That the visible is a reflection of the invisible. That matter is a spirit in a higher level and spirit is matter in a lower level. So as above, so below. And it's one of the 7 laws of Thau Thau Haramanuba, what they call the Hermetic laws. That the first law is mentalism, that the all is mind.
Yes.
You know, what men call God is a universal consciousness. So you'll hear some people who tell you that, I possess cosmic consciousness, or I'm at the level of cosmic consciousness. Nobody possesses cosmic consciousness. It's a consciousness of the totality of all that is. And for you to attain the ultimate, you must become the ultimate. There's no attaining the ultimate. There's no way the finite can comprehend the infinite. So these are some fancy things that the new age groups of spiritualists will be making, that come to me, I'm the grandmaster, I'm a teacher, I possess the cosmic consciousness. Once you hear somebody saying that, you must know that he's hallucinating, he's deluded now. No man possesses cosmic consciousness. Actually, the absolutes of life, no man possesses them. No man possesses perfection. We are possessed by perfection every now and then. There's a moment you wake up feeling very imperfect. You know, so nobody can claim that I am perfect. Once you hear somebody say he's perfect, he needs his head to be examined. Once you start to hear somebody say, I possess the cosmic consciousness, you know that, okay, something is wrong with him, he's hallucinating on a higher level. So the absolutes, you can only experience the absolute by becoming the absolute.
I see.
You can only have the totality of God by becoming the totality.
I see.
So that is why we say we are Africans having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having human experience. And so in the context of Africans having a spiritual experience, this is what basically we refer to as African spirituality. As opposed to most people say there's no such thing as African spirituality. No. Spirituality is reality. If you don't deal with reality, you don't deal with spirituality. If you want to deal with spirituality, you must deal with reality. So when you speak of African spirituality, you speak of African reality. That's what African spirituality basically is about. So it's an experience that we gain every day. Nobody possesses the total experience of life without living life in its totality.
Makes sense. And then let's talk about some of the artifacts before we conclude our our discussion here. You alluded to the ankh. Let's start with the ankh. The originality of the ankh and what it symbolizes or what it means to us.
The ankh, the oldest symbol of the ankh, we found it among one of the oldest people in Africa, the Batwa. There's a book by Albert Churchward called Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man. So within the signs and symbols, almost every sign that is on earth came from Batwa, even the German swastika. So the difference is in the meaning of the symbols themselves. So among the Batwa, the ankh represents a sign of an upright man, a sign of a man who live freely, a sign of a free man, symbolized by the ankh. But when you go to the Dikenga, which is the Congo cosmogram, which is found within the African cosmology of the Bantu Congo, now the ankh represents Ngaka, Muganga, a teacher, a spiritual teacher, an upright man who stands between the heavens and the earth. Yes, so that is what it represents, the ankh.
So it's got the top part and the bottom part. Yes. So but if it represents an upright man, what would the top and the bottom mean?
This is like a human being when it symbolizes an upright man. Hands, head, the body.
Yes.
But also they have multiple meaning. Like one of them is the Neteru, the Ankh Neteru. Ankh is an acronym. It's an acronym for A is Amun and Amunet, the male and female. Nu and Nunet.
Okay.
Ke and Keket, He and Hehet. So these are the Ankh Neterus, which were in the beginning uncreated gods that were always in the beginning before the creation. So this is where we refer to them as the Ankh Neteru, ANKH. That is where it get the abbreviation. And then also it is representing the womb and the male principle, the balance of the opposite. Just like with the male and female gods, it's also about the balance of the opposite of these two genders.
So in the African spirituality, so you don't have a patriarchal god, so you've got gods which are both
male and female.
Yes.
Even if when you speak of Mudimu as a singular entity, we're speaking of an entity that is androgynous, that possesses both male and female qualities within it. So it's always been, the African spirituality has always been about the balance. Ma'at, you know, Ankh and Ma'at, living in Ma'at. Ma'at is balance, usually is interpreted as justice and righteousness and truth, but basically Ma'at speaks to the cosmic order as it was when it was established by the Creator. The cosmic order in its perfect and pure state is Ma'at, which is balance. That is why you go as far as you go in Kemet cosmology, you always find gods in pairs. The same with African creation stories. They tell you the first people, they were a pair. So there's always been this, and this in this case, yes. So they came out in pairs. So you go throughout Africa, you're getting this a balanced spiritual approach. So even in the context of the hate, batare munna ke tlhogo ya motse, mosadi ke tlhogo ya lelapa. There is a differentiation between umuzi nekaya. The homestead and the family or the house.
The house, I was gonna say.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's always been that balance.
This is the end of today's conversation with the great Thau Thau, and then we will continue with other related topics in the near future. And what's your parting words?
Well, my parting words is it is very important for us as Africans to study our history, do independent research. We have a program in Bantu Soul Society, our institute, where we call Researching the Researchers, or the antithesis of thesis. I have a collection of books written by missionaries, trying to go into the mind of the missionaries, because they had an agenda when they were studying us, which was to colonize us, to gain information that they will use to colonize us, to declare us to be Piagan, therefore we need to be Christianized, and so forth, which is basically what the likes of Eugene Casalis, Robert Moffat, Ellen Berger, Edwin Smith, Taylor, all of them did. So it is important that we research the researchers. We must study the Europeans. We must study our African history. We must go even into our oral tradition. We must visit heritage sites like this one, like Freedom Park. And we must also connect the dot. We must not do what Christianity was designed to make us do, which is to impose a paralysis of analysis, that we fail to analyze because we get so paralyzed that there are so much things when you're reading even the text or listening to the official Christian doctrine that you'll see that should you apply analysis on this thing, most of them, they are pure falsehood, some of them they're disconnected, and mostly they are contradictory.
Last one, just to intrigue our viewers, the Enoch which you say is Thau Thau that you alluded to, is it the same Enoch that's being talked about briefly in the Bible?
It is the same Enoch. It is actually, this is also comparative studies that for the Hebrews, they refer to this character of Kemet as Enoch.
Yes.
But this character did not necessarily refer to himself as Enoch. It's like how black people were colonized, and after being colonized by this superior force, they start to say their indigenous Mudimu is basically Jehovah. So they're just comparing two different things. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I wouldn't say that Thau Thau is Enoch, but I will say that those who are doing comparative studies, they said Thau Thau among the Hebrews is Enoch. Or just like with the Greeks when they say Thoth Hermes. Hermes is messenger of the gods in the Greek mythology. Yes. It's not necessarily the Kemetic Thau Thau or Tehuti or the Nubian Thau Thau. So it's this thing of comparative studies, like how they are saying Jesus, when you get into Egypt, is Osiris. When you go to Mexico, is Quetzalcoatl. When you go to thing is Mithra.
In India
is Krishna. So it's comparison. It's not necessarily the same. And this is what we're talking about, that similarity don't necessarily mean sameness. That you find similars that, you had a concept of a savior. We also had, we call him Mushanyana Sinkatan. But the story of Mushanyana Sinkatan is about people being swallowed by a big dragon, Hodomodu. And then this one person who they don't talk about his earthly father, so it's assumed that he was also of immaculate conception like Jesus. So therefore you're going to say Mushanyana Sinkatan is the African Jesus. No, it's not like that. It's a lazy thinking, which is inspired by religious comparative studies that are not necessarily compatible and comparable.
Thank you, and I've enjoyed the proceedings here at Freedom Park Heritage Site, this event, because it has made our paths to cross, because otherwise we wouldn't have met to just talk about these matters. And I hope to have a series of them with you, and let's just suckle the knowledge out of you, because the name, as the name suggests, we need to get this knowledge out, and then just to inform other fellow Africans.
No, definitely. It's always a pleasure having conversation with you. As a conversationist, as a knowledgeable person, that is how you can only get, somebody who's knowledgeable about these things, so they are able to ask the right question in order to get the right answers. So
we'll talk about the Rastafari. We'll talk about the pyramids of Egypt. We'll talk about the Kepra Negast,
the Solomonic dynasty,
the dynasties,
as opposed to Solomonic bloodline. All of those. I will talk about them.
Thank you for your time, and all the best. The great Thau Thau.
Thank you so much, Sir Ndate Dimu, and even with your Run podcast.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Tango.